Hello, all of you beautiful people. Quick announcement. On Saturday, December 2nd, I will be hosting a live event to tee up 2018 to be the best year of your life. We're calling it the Launchpad Mastermind, Achieve Your Dreams in 2018. The event is taking place at this amazing cabin in a national park just outside of Cleveland. Tickets are on sale now. To learn more, you can go on to millennialmm.com/launchpad, and there you can check out more information about the event and grab your tickets. So I hope to see you there.
You know, I'm a big believer then that the productivity comes from the word to produce. So if there's no product out of your productivity, you're just wasting time and not facing your fears, not doing something that really matters.
Hello, and welcome to the Millennial Mastermind Podcast. I'm your host, Brad Mulvey. If you're a millennial looking for actionable advice and a proven formula on how to build the life of your dreams, then this is the show for you. Each week, I'll be connecting with inspiring guests who will be sharing their wisdom on how to reach success. So if you're ready to take your life to the next level, buckle up and enjoy the ride. Hey y'all, welcome to the show. Today we're talking with Matt Sandrini. Matt is a performance coach and runs TimeZillionaire.com, a blog dedicated to the mastery of our most precious resource, our time. In this episode, we cover a variety of strategies to better utilize our time and improve our productivity. We discuss what it means to focus on output rather than input, the importance of long-term thinking, how saying yes is actually saying no to many other opportunities, and much, much more. I know you guys are going to love this one, and you're going to love Matt's English accent. So without further ado, let's dive into it. Enjoy. All right, ladies and gentlemen, here we are with another episode of the Millennial Mastermind Podcast. Really appreciate you guys tuning in today. Today, I'm joined by a guest from across the pond over there in England, Mr. Matt Sandrini. Matt, how are you today?
I'm very well, Brad. Thank you. And hi, everyone. Thank you for having me on the show.
Yeah, no, it's an honor to have you. And I'm excited to dive into your story and pull out some of the insights that you've learned along the way, because you've had a pretty interesting journey. So to kick things off, would you mind just going back a little bit and explaining how you got to where you are today and going into that journey a little bit?
Yeah, so I can talk a little bit about what I do now and then how I got here. So what I do now is I run a blog which is called TimeZillionaire.com, and through that I do coaching to makers. So, you know, it could be freelancers or small business owners or people that want to have a side gig, but really, there is something missing in the way they organize their time, or maybe they want to get to their next level and don't really know how to do that. And so what I really like to do is to get in there and sort out their priorities, and also really look at how they sabotage themselves. And it's a great adventure for me as well, because I get to share my learning, I get to share my tough lessons, but equally I get to learn with other people. So I'm really privileged to be able to do that. And the way I got here, really, you know, if we go back a few years, it's actually my first experience after out of university was with a corporation, a big international firm in IT, and I was really excited when I started, because, you know, there's a lot of hype, and it was a really big brand. I don't want to name names, but, you know, it is really well known in IT. It's been around for decades, and I was really excited. But when I started, I found that there was a great disconnect between work and what was actually being made, and it really made me think about my priorities and the concept of productivity, because when I was there, it was more about showing up rather than creating something. And that really, it caused a bit of an identity crisis, I guess, because it made me think like, okay, am I just someone that shows up? Am I just someone that gives away his minutes, his hours, his days, and gets paid just for that transaction, which is kind of meaningless. Anyone could do it. Or am I doing something more? Am I doing something else? And so after a while, I really thought about that, and I started to realize that I do identify as a maker. I do like to create things, and I used to do that a lot as a kid as well. This was maybe passed down by my parents, but I've always been a bit of a maker. And so while I was working in that role, I with a friend of mine, we had a bit of a chat, and at the time we were into Kickstarter. Kickstarter was just starting, and for those that are not familiar with Kickstarter, it's a crowdfunding website where you create a prototype of an idea. You put it out there, you explain, what it can do, what you are going to do it, how you are going to make it. And then people, they back it. So they buy your idea, and then you send it to them once it's ready. It's a great way to finance your first business, your first product. And so we decided to go that way. And that was my first, I'd say my first big business or big online business. And, we raised, quite a bit of money. It was around $80,000 at the time in a month, which was, it was really good, to get started. And then in that case, I really, I no longer had the excuse of, having my day planned by someone else, having to show up and doing the 9 to 5 or 9 to 6:30 or whatever that was in the office. At that point, I was in control, and yet something wasn't working. We were kind of doing the opposite. Me and my business partner at the time, we were putting in the hours and really, and again, kind of working like our time wasn't really worth anything, and we were not focusing on the output. We were focusing again on the input. So, how long are we going to stay here? Or let's say as long as we can. But we were not focusing on the quality of what we were doing. And this created a lot of problems over time because, not only we were really stressed and our performance really went down, but also, there is a cap to how much time you can put in. And that cap is 24 hours. It doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter what you do. And there was a big lesson, and I realized that it's not about the environment. It's not about whether you work in a job or you work on your own. It's really important to have your priorities and understand where you can make a difference, both to your business, to your customers, to your job, but also to yourself. What are the things that you enjoy doing? What are your strengths, and how can you capitalize on those and live a fulfilling life where you are a maker, you create things, but also you work on your strengths and you keep growing. And that was really like how it all started. And then I put in all these I followed all the tough lessons in my next business and surely in Time Zillionaire as well. And I really wanted to share this. I really wanted to share this attention to what the output is, to what you create, and also to the quality of your life, the quality of what you do. And this is what I've been sharing with people since, and I'm really passionate about this. I had a chat with a reader. I was traveling last week, and I met when I travel, I like to meet some of my readers just to understand their challenges, understand how I can help more, but also to remind them and myself that I'm there. I'm a person, and I keep learning. I want to learn from other people as well. So we had a chat, and he was saying, I follow a lot of advice online, and some people like Gary Vee, which I'm a big fan of, they remind me that the hustle is important. It's important to put in the work. And I totally agree with that. But he was saying, you remind me that it's not just about how many hours I put in. It's about doing the right things. It's about doing what moves the needle. It's about doing what makes me feel great, what makes me grow.
That makes a lot of sense. And I really appreciate you sharing that message to focus not just on the input, but actually on the output. And I think sometimes when you're just in a job and you're just working 9 to 5, there are roles that you can get away with just focusing on the input. You get there, at 8 o'clock in the morning, and you leave 5 o'clock at night or whatever your set hours are. And, that's the job. But especially when you transition into working for yourself and more of an entrepreneurial role, that totally flips, where it doesn't matter if you're putting in 80 hours a week or 5 hours a week. The only thing that matters is the output and the quality of what you're producing.
Absolutely.
So that's a really interesting point.
And the tricky thing there is that time is easily measurable, whereas your output is not, and your output might be different from someone else's output. So in a situation where you compare yourself to other people, instead of just looking at your own output and just having an internal measure, just being honest with yourself, what you want to do, if you measure yourself with other people, the only way you can do that is by using time, because time is the same across, every person and whatever you do, every job. And that is a real trick. There's in an office, most people they stay until everyone else stays in. It doesn't matter whether they have to stay in until 5:36 or whatever it is. They just do it because everyone else expects them to do that.
Yep.
And it becomes like a clock swinging challenge in a way, rather than an actual making.
Absolutely. So I'd be curious to understand then, when you're working with your different coaching clients, how do you get them to focus more on the output? And like you said, it's more challenging to measure output. It's not as, straightforward as looking at the clock and seeing how many hours you put in that day. So what does that look like? How can listeners start to think more about the output and start really having something that they can work towards on that front?
Yes. Great point. So, one thing that I see across many people, and I'm guilty of it sometimes, and I have to remind myself of this, is that being busy and doing a lot is very often a way to sabotage yourself and to not have to face the things that really scare you, but that would really make a difference. So sometimes you need to make a call you don't want to make, or maybe you need to email 10 people just because you want to get their feedback on your new product or your idea, or whatever that is. That is scary, because you can measure whether you are successful or you fail at whatever you want to obtain out of it. But a great way not to face that fear is to say, okay, well, before that, actually, I'm too busy to do that. I need to send 10 emails. I need to, and actually emails is a great way, because the myth of inbox zero is like, sweeping the ocean away. It will never work. When we die, our inbox won't be empty, because, we keep getting emails every day. So having that constant to-do list that gets filled up, it's a great way of procrastinating, of not facing your fears, but equally feeling good about it, because you see movement, but actually not going anywhere. It's the equivalent of running on a treadmill rather than running outside. In one case, you're not going anywhere, but you're still sweating. In the other case, you're sweating, but you're getting somewhere. And it's that being able to identify whether you are moving and going somewhere, or just creating movement. And so something that I do is I look at how they use the time at the moment, what they spread themselves over. And then we have a look at what is really important. And, this is an exercise your listeners can do at home. Just look at their past week, look at their calendar, maybe their emails, their to-dos, and what are the emails and the meetings and calls that really didn't produce anything. I'm a big believer that the productivity comes from the word to produce. So if there's no product out of your productivity, you're just wasting time and not facing your fears, not doing something that really matters. And so, something really good is just instead of looking at the next week, which it's difficult to measure, look at your past week, look how you spent your past 7 days, and try to learn from that and do better next week. And I think that's an exercise that your listeners can do already. And then something I like to do is I like to talk about this thing, which is short-term acting, long-term thinking. And we very often think short-term. We wake up in the morning and think, what do I have to do today? And then we go to bed. Maybe we finish our to-do list. Maybe we don't. We go to bed, wake up again. What do I do today? And very often what happens is we get a lot of to-dos pushed to us through emails, through calls, through, whatever that is. And this is you can only make baby steps, or even step backwards, actually, because you don't have the big pictures. And this is because this is a manifestation of short-term thinking. So you just look at the day. But I'm a big fan of thinking long-term. Where do you want to be? Where do you want to be? When I take on a new client, we look at 3 years from now. Where do you want to be 3 years from now? Dream big, because the only thing that differentiates a successful business and a not so successful business is not the capabilities or the intelligence of the business owner. It's just how big they dreamt and how much work they put in towards a dream. So I really feel that 3 years is a great window to be able to dream. And if you look back 3 years ago, I'm sure you were in a very different situation, Brad.
Oh yeah, wait. I was in a job that I really did not like, living in a city that I could not afford at the time. Just the podcast wasn't even a thought yet. I don't even think I was listening to podcasts. So yeah, it was a very different time in my life for sure.
So we really underestimate what can happen in 3 years, but looking back, we all go, wow, actually, I changed. And so I really think that if we adopt that mentality going forward, it gives us the leeway to be creative and to dream. And then what I do next is I just break it down. I go like, okay, what do we need to do in the next 12 months to get closer to that? And then what do we need to do in the next quarter to get closer to the yearly goal and then the monthly goal and so on and so forth. And so by breaking it down, then you know what to do every week. And then by knowing what to do every week, you know what to do every day. And so you can act very short term. And that's what I mean. By breaking it down, you can take action every day and just through very small but constant improvements, get closer to your vision. So you think long term, you get motivated, you've got loads of leeway to create your change. But then you act every day. You make very small movement, very small progress, but constant, and it builds on. So on your third month, you're not starting from scratch. You are starting from the mountain you've already built in month 1, 2, and 3, and so on and so forth. And little by little, you get closer and closer to your 3-year goal, and you'll find out that actually you haven't even dreamt big enough.
I really like that piece of advice, and I've really started to even see that within my own life, just taking consistent action on a daily basis. But it does sound great in theory. I would love to know if there's any examples either from your life or maybe a client's life, without using any names or anything like that,
okay.
But was there a time that you can think of when somebody was really spinning their wheels, thinking more short term, then they switched into that long term thinking, and the impact that you or that client may have seen from that and kind of how it manifested itself?
Yes, I can think about 2 examples which are quite similar. And so the idea is it was a moment of transition for this person, and it will work. I'm sure this example will resonate with many people. But in this transition, they were really thinking about, how can I? Well, because they were transitioning out of the job into a new career through their business. The main concern wasn't for their business to thrive, for themselves to thrive, for themselves to do great. It was just how do I get at the end of the month? Because I'm not going to have I'm used to having a monthly salary. I'm no longer going to have that once I do the jump. Although I'm already making money through my business, it might not be enough. And they had been stuck in this thinking for a very long time. And because of this short-term thinking, they never had the freedom to take action that really would make a difference. And so we really looked at that, and actually the problem, they were stuck in this rut for months, for a really long time. So the fear was, I'm going to lose all my money. But actually the fact was that never happened. They had been stuck in that situation for months. And the fear was, I'm going to run out of money at the end of the month. And yet they never did. So it was all in the mind. But because of that fear, they never gave themselves the freedom to think 3 months from now, 6 months from now, a year from now, what do I actually want to do? Where am I actually going towards? And so they were just taking small actions to diffuse the fear and to get to the end of the month, that's what they were shooting for. And so once we looked at okay, but what do you actually want to do? What do you actually want to achieve? That gave it such clarity. The direction was, okay, 1 year from now, actually, I want my business to have this impact with these people. And I want to be in this situation. I don't want to have to worry about money, but also I want to create value for other people. And I want to measure this impact, not just with money, but in this different way. Once we had that clarity, then they knew what to do. And once you know what to do, you don't have that fear of not making it, because it's always a problem of direction. When you have to move forward without knowing where to go, you can move in any direction and that'll do. But once you know where you want to be a year from now, then everything else becomes easier because it's just the next street in your GPS to your final destination rather than, oh my God, where do I go next? And that really helped. And just that thinking really unlocked a lot of clarity, of serenity, and being able to take action and take bold action rather than just, again, I think this is a big difference between playing not to lose and playing to win. And what this person was doing, they were playing not to lose. They were playing not to lose all their money because that was their biggest fear, and it came from a past experience as well. And once they had their direction and they wanted that to happen, at that point they knew what winning meant, and they were playing to win rather than not to lose.
Yeah,
does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And really, there's an opportunity cost too when you're just playing not to lose. I love the way you put that, playing not to lose, but not playing to win. Because when you're stuck kind of in that short-term thinking and you're just taking steps to try to make those, whether making the ends meet or achieve those really short-term goals, what you don't realize is you're not taking the opportunity to work towards those long-term dreams and take those steps that are really like an investment to get to that point in your life. And so when you're just spinning your wheels like that for months on end, you don't get any closer, and you've lost, say 6 months, a year, 5 years of your life just kind of spinning your wheels, constantly working towards these short-term goals. But what could you have accomplished if you would have been approaching it with the long-term thinking that you're talking about?
Yes. And now I like to say and differentiate between the fact that I like to say that we are always training for something. So when someone says, well, I'm not going to go to the gym for 6 months because I'm too busy for that, and they think that they are freezing their fitness, or if they say, I'm not going to work on my business for the next 6 months because I don't want to do that, or maybe they just they procrastinate for 6 months until they actually take action. What they think and what we all tend to think is that we are just freezing things and then we will start from the same place where we are. But actually, if you're not going to the gym, you're training yourself at being better at not going to the gym. If you're training yourself to accept procrastination, you're not staying where you are. You're training yourself to have worse focus, worse attention, and worse action. So it's really the case of knowing what lesson you want to teach yourself.
Yeah, that's very interesting. And anybody who does go to the gym knows that if they take 6 months off, they're not going to be at that same point where they left off when they come back. They're going to have lost strength, stamina, all of those things. So it's just natural to apply that to your business. Why do you think that you wouldn't lose momentum, wouldn't lose, that spot that you were in, taking steps back by actually not working towards it? So I love that input that you just offered. I also read an article that you wrote talking about the power of saying no. And this is something that we hear pretty frequently. It's almost a buzzword now, is like say no to more things. But the way that you explain it, I think, is really interesting and a bit different from what some of the listeners may have heard before. So I'd love if you wouldn't mind sharing some of that.
Yeah, of course. I'm glad it resonated with you. And I think that what really made me realize how important saying no is when someone told me that saying yes is actually saying no to many things. And that means that if you say yes to, I say that you commit quite easily to going out every Thursday with a friend that, you have an okay relationship, but maybe it's not a great friendship. You're actually saying no to every other thing you could do on that Thursday. And it's the same thing if you're saying yes to staying in a job that you don't like, or maybe you're saying yes to even something positive, saying that you're saying yes to working on your business you're passionate about. You're also saying no to everything else you could do in that same time. So it's always a trade-off, but we don't realize it. We think that no is difficult because when we say no, we think that we need the blessing or the pardon of someone else. Whereas when we say yes, it's easy because we are pleasing other people, and maybe we're not pleasing ourselves, but it's so easy to pardon ourselves because we are in control of that. And so I think that what really what's really important is to understand that there is, you are saying no anyway. It's just that if you say no, you're saying no to one thing, and you know why. It's probably because you're not that passionate about it. But if you are saying yes to something, you commit to something, whether it's a commitment that goes long term or short term, you're actually saying yes to one thing, but no to everything else. So actually yes is a stronger no than an actual no. And so, to be able, if you really want to, support yourself, support your choices, your passion, but also support the people around you and the people you care about, the business you care about, the job you care about. Saying no is so important because it's a shield. It shields all these things that are important to you against the unimportant, against what doesn't make a difference after 6 months. What, you're going to look back again 3 years from now, and you're not going to remember that will not have made a difference. And so, I think that shift in thinking and understanding that no is inevitable, whether you say yes or no, you still say no. And so say a clear no instead, and choose what's important to you, choose what's going to bring you the most joy, choose what's going to support the people, the projects, the business, the clients that matter to you.
Yeah, I think that's spot on. And I'm curious because, like you said, it always is a trade-off. And one of the hard things is knowing what to say yes then to. So once you do get good at saying no and you open up yourself to other opportunities that are going to be a better fit for you, bring you more joy, bring you potentially more money, is there a way that you, Mac, personally go about knowing what to say yes to, especially when you're thinking about what projects you're going to take on and what the next step is going to be in your business, things of that nature?
Yeah, I'm a big believer of trying a lot of things, but quitting very fast. So, if there's something that you think will be good for you, try it if it's something new. But then, have the self-awareness, and, you can get more self-awareness by trying more things and also by being around the right people. And, I think that, I'm a big believer of trying and then quitting. Even I started doing that with books about a year ago. I open a book, I read maybe a quarter of it. If I don't like it, that's it. I don't have to finish it. And, it's just being okay with, leaving things unfinished if they're not, again, it's another way of saying no. If they don't bring you that joy, if they don't bring you that edge, be free to say no. You can do that with friendships. A lot of people, I say it's very difficult to see a breakup in a friendship. We see breakups in a relationship, all the time, but we don't see that in a friendship. But friendships last, maybe a lifetime. So you could argue that their influence could be even stronger than some relationships, but you rarely see that. And that's because we settle for something that, just because we don't want to say no, but saying no will allow us to say a stronger yes to a stronger relationship that will be better for both people. And, that applies in relationships, friendships, projects, learning, business, everything. And I really feel that self-awareness is important, and that comes with a discipline of knowing when you're actually quitting something out of procrastination, and when you're quitting something out of because you really don't like it. And the clue there is looking at whether you are tweaking things or it's a radical change. So if you are trying things and it's a radical change, then you are experimenting and you are trying to understand what you like. But if you're just jumping from tactic to tactic, so in a business, there will be, I'm going to try Twitter for a week, and then I'm going to try Instagram for a week, and then I'm going to try Facebook ads for a week. That is not experimenting. That's just tweaking your tactics and procrastinating, going back to staying in your comfort zone and not having to go to the next level because the next level is scary. But if you try it and you stick to it for a little while, and then you go, actually, this is not working and this is why, and I want to try something radically different, then at that point you are experimenting and you are learning more about yourself, more about your business, and more about your life.
So Matt, going back to kind of earlier in your journey, how many years ago was it when you first made that jump from that international IT firm that you were working with to going into business, getting that Kickstarter up and running?
So this was it was 4 years ago.
4 years ago. Okay, so
yes.
I'm sure in that time frame you've learned quite a bit.
Yes.
Is there one piece of advice that you would give yourself at that point in time when you were just getting ready to start that Kickstarter campaign or just getting ready to leave the IT firm? Is there one piece that you have learned over the past 4 years that you would go ahead and give to that version of Matt?
Yes. I think that especially to that version of Matt, I would say take action. Again, we go back to what scares you and being busy to procrastinate and not do that straight away. So take action and do it now. Because we all know what we need to do. We just try to make it more complicated so that we don't have to face it. And then I would say, because you're taking action, take your time to transition. At the time, I really wanted to get out of the corporate world, and it was a great decision. But the way I did it, especially because I waited, because I was taking it. I was being busy not to face my fears for quite a long time. It took me a longer amount of time. It became more stressful, but then equally at the end, I was like, okay, I'm just going to quit. And again, it meant that I turned my business from a project to, my livelihood. And it's very different when that happens. When you make it happen straight away, it is very, very, it becomes very, again, very, very different. And so what I would advise to, 2013 Matt is, take action on what matters, but take your time on that transition and actually by taking action in the short term, you will make that transition faster, smoother, and you will learn more from it. So I guess my advice would be that. Smooth transition and take action.
I love that. I appreciate those insights. So Matt, if anybody is listening to this and they want to get more from you, because I know there's a lot that we have not gotten into that you talk about on your blog and elsewhere, where can they find more of Matt Sandrini?
So I would love to hear what's the one main takeaway that your listeners got from this podcast. So they can email me at matt@timezillionaire.com, and if they can let me know what's the main challenge they're facing right now, I would love to hear that.
I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Matt got cut off at the end there, so a few other places where you can find him are, like he said, matt@timezillionaire.com is his email. You could find him on his website at www.timezillionaire.com. He's also on Twitter and Instagram at Matt Sandrini. So check him out there. And like I mentioned at the beginning of the show, I'm hoping to see you guys all at Launchpad Mastermind on December 2nd here in Cleveland, Ohio. If you're interested in that event, just check out more information at millennialmm.com/launchpad. And I think it's going to be an epic event based on some of the individuals who are going to be leading some exercises there and some speakers we have coming in. And it's going to be a really, really awesome way to set up your 2018 to be the best year of your life. So with that, hope you guys have a great week, and we'll see you here again next time. Adios.